Ghost is gone. New York is over. This is my chance to get mine. Can't be stopped.
Miguel, he's dangerous.
So am I. We got enemies eyeing us, cops clocking us.
As Tommy sets his sights on taking over Chicago, he's going to come across a set of fresh new threats from law enforcement to violent drunk gangs. In Season 1, he positioned himself between the Flynn family and the CBI, taking advantage of the internal power struggles within both organizations. He also made his mark in Chicago with the only way he knows how to, by being his ruthless self, and Season 2 seems no different. The trailer for Season 2 shows Tommy being back true to his nature: violence, love, ambition, and protection. Tommy's Back is also the title for Episode 1, maybe a reference to Tommy coming back to Chicago after finally ending the beef with Tasha and Tariq St. Patrick back in New York. As we know from Season 1, actions have a way of setting off a chain reaction. Tommy will be on a mission to avenge the death of Liliana, along with taking over Chicago.
You ever get tired of being at the bottom of the top? What's standing in our way?
Just the biggest connects in Chicago.
Now the Flynn family are also torn in two, and so are the CBI, although there are clues to suggest that Jenard may be Team Tommy and Diamond later on in the season. There's also a few new faces we're going to be introduced to. Miguel Garcia is the head of the Mexican organization in Chicago, a character who seems violent and domineering, with direct links to the cartel. Maria Garcia is his sister, and we all know Tommy Egan. He really is a fire starter. Now Season 2 does seem like it's going to be a lot more challenging for Tommy than Season 1. A new task force led by AUSA Stacey Marks will make the lives of Tommy and the rest of the crews in Chicago a lot more difficult, as we're working for Miguel Garcia and the returning Mirkovic. So there are a few big players in Chicago, and they're all vying for the same territory, which brings them more money, which equals more power. Now the trailer starts by Tommy outlining his ambition for Season 2. Tommy doesn't want to just be the distro for Miguel Garcia, he wants to be at the top of the food chain. But we have to think about who's in between him and the throne. We have Miguel Garcia, the new Mexican drug lord, as the new connect. We also have the Serbs who are set to return from Season 1, led by Mirkovic. Now in Season 1, Tommy came to Chicago with nothing, but he managed to sandwich himself between the CBI and the Flynns, and also use their internal beef to his advantage. In Season 2, Tommy does look like he's going to try and do something similar, but to get to the top of the game, he needs to take out both Miguel and Mirkovic. As he says, Chicago is a violent city, and no doubt he's going to use that to his advantage. The synopsis teases that Tommy will try and capitalize on the rivalry between the Serbs and the Mexicans, as he tells Diamond, let them fight each other while they continue expanding their territory, and then when nobody's looking, slide right on in. Tommy's ambition is pretty much set in stone. He's either going to create a fire or pour more fuel to the fire, which will definitely work to his advantage. So while the Mexicans and the Serbs are killing each other, he's going to be right there ready to take the spot as the connect. But as I mentioned before, there are two formidable drug lords standing in his way, and Tommy really better tread carefully. Now, as violent as they come, the trailer for Season 2 wasted no time in introducing Miguel Garcia. As Maria Garcia said, he's dangerous. He's a character who will take no shit, whether it's from Tommy or Diamond or his own crew or enemies, which is what it seems like is happening in this particular scene. This scene matches up perfectly to the first look images that was released for Season 2. We've got some enemies of Miguel Garcia tied up to a chair, with what looks like an ice chamber of some sort, as he freezes one of their hands and forces Tommy to do the deed. No doubt, this is a power move from Miguel Garcia, to not only teach his enemies a lesson of what happens if you cross him, but a lesson for Tommy and Diamond as well.
I got a soft spot for romance.
Now, it really wouldn't be a power show without Tommy having a bit of love. He's always got a soft spot for romance and love. That's just who Tommy is. But the problem with this particular love interest is, she's the sister of Miguel Garcia, Tommy's connect. We hear Maria Garcia warn him, Miguel is dangerous, but so is Tommy, he's a fire starter. And the fact that Miguel Garcia is his connect won't stop him from connecting with Maria, but this will eventually cause him problems when Miguel does find out. This could also cause Maria problems because, as we all know, it doesn't end well for Tommy's love interests. There was Holly and Lakeisha in power, and for a brief period in time in Season 1 of Force, there was also Gloria, although he did end that relationship for the sake of business. Now, whether it ends the same way for Maria, who knows, but I am hoping that Force do take a different direction with Tommy's love interest, but it is certainly one to keep an eye on. Now back to business. Tommy and Diamond are going to be running their own organization after the split with Jenard, although I do think they will eventually find a way of coming back together, but I'm going to get to that in just a moment. Now we hear Diamond warning him in the trailer they can't keep going to war, which is something similar to what he said in Season 1 after they hit the Serbs for their territory, but the synopsis gives us a clear indication that Tommy is about to set off a chain reaction of violence in pursuit of his ambition, and no doubt, it is going to include a hell of a lot of violence and death. Now, in season 1, Diamond did say he wanted to do things differently when he was released from prison, although Tommy was able to convince him with the law of money and power. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a few disagreements between Tommy and Diamond about how they move forward. Maybe not to the extent of Tommy and Ghost, but this game will always create conflict from within. We hear Diamond saying what are they going to do now as someone gets shot at close range in the barbershop's basement, which is a constant reminder that often money and power is paid in the price of blood. Jenard was a character who divided opinions in season 1, especially because he was hell-bent on killing Tommy Egan, but Chris Lofton, who plays Jenard, did bring a breath of fresh air to season 1 of Force with a dominant performance as his character, and with how they were previously teasing Force season 2, I am expecting his character to level up that much more. He's gonna have to have his head on a constant swivel after the CBI were torn in two, but this was a clue in the trailer where Jenard seems like he might be back on Team Diamond and Tommy at some point in the season. I don't expect that to happen straight away, but something seems to have brought them back together. The most logical explanation seems like a common enemy, either Miguel Garcia, Mirkovic, or even the Flynns, who also seem like they're out for blood as well. Now, speaking of blood, someone who Tommy did pour a drink out for at the end of season 1 was Liliana. No doubt he's going to be looking for revenge, and the person responsible for killing someone who he unexpectedly grew close to, who we as the audience know is Claudia Flynn. It also seems like Tommy is getting closer to the truth as we see him holding a gun to Claudia Flynn, although I don't see Tommy pulling the trigger as she tells him he won't get that very far. From what we do know of from the Flynns from season 1, they roll deep with bodyguards, and so it is going to be difficult for Tommy to get his hands on Claudia when and if he does find out the truth. But this is one of the situations which he will not let go. Someone's blood will have to be spilled for Liliana. Now, sticking with the Flynns, we know they are a family that were torn in two through the lies and manipulation of Walter Flynn. But as always with parents in the Power universe, they have a way of manipulating things in their favour. We're all too familiar with what we saw in Power Book 2 Ghosts with Monet and Rock in Raising Kanan. So we see Walter Flynn at Claudia's penthouse suite, with Claudia looking over Chicago. We all know she's ambitious and hungry, and she very well may have a chance to call more shots in the Flynn organization, as Vic Flynn seems like he's found solace at the bottom of a bottle. There were quite a few clues towards the back end of season 1. In tough times, Vic definitely tends to alcohol, and Walter Flynn did warn him last season, whatever answers he's looking for, he won't find it by drinking. Now, the death of Gloria is going to leave a huge void in Vic's life, and of course he's going to be hurting, but I don't want to see his character moping around. I do want to see him react, taking control, and being the leader that his father wants him to be. On the flip side, we all know that that's never going to happen while Walter's in charge, who has a set way of doing things in the Flynn organization, even though he's running it down to the ground. We also see him with a shotgun in hand, dead bodies in the background, and Walter Flynn pretty much on demon time. Claudia also seems like she's in trouble, maybe from running from a shootout or a war that she started, but can't finish. In the trailer for season 2, we also hear Tommy saying they've got enemies eyeing them and cops clocking them, and this is another huge issue for Tommy in season 2. As violence seems to have swept throughout the city, law enforcement are going to try and bring down Tommy and the rest of the gangs in Chicago. Now, throughout season 1 they had eyes on the Flynns and the CBI, and with Tommy sandwiched in between, we saw this particular picture being taken which landed on AUSA Stacey Marks' desk. At that moment in time, he remained a ghost, but not anymore. AUSA Stacey Marks says Tommy Egan is a linchpin that will help them bring down all of these gangs in Chicago, and so they were able to put a name to the face. How they've done that, who knows, but it also does raise a few questions. Tommy's supposed to be dead in New York, and if they found out who this mystery man is, who's causing chaos in the streets of Chicago, then you have to think that New York would have also got wind that Tommy's alive. So let's keep our eyes on how this plays out with a potential crossover, because we did see Blanca Rodriguez, who wanted to investigate the mayhem at the end of season 1. Now elsewhere, we're in for one explosive season, literally. The fight for money and power is going to reach an all-time high. It also seems like there are going to be some reunions, along with some betrayals. Tommy's going to be moving a hell of a lot of weight this season, and Mirkovic will also be a problem, because correct me if I'm wrong, the CBI do still occupy the territory that they took by brute force. Law enforcement are going to be hot on their trail, the Serbs and the Mexican rivalry will provide plenty of action and death, and there's also going to be some huge explosions. We also have to be mindful that Walter Flynn does answer to bigger bosses in Dublin. There's also Tommy Egan's backstory with the returning Kate Egan. So along with the violence and death, there also promises to be a lot of mystery questions answered. So with that being said, I'm going to leave you guys with my question. Will Tommy succeed in taking over Chicago by the end of season 2? Will he take out Mirkovic and Miguel Garcia? And make himself the biggest goddamn drug dealer in Chicago?